So Austin, I'm going to have you start by introducing yourself.
My name's Austin Isley. I run Pasage Studios. I'm 24 from the North Hills. I'm a goof. How you like that?
Love it.
Cool.
So how did you start Pasage?
My partner and I, Jem, we were screwing around with a bunch of different business ideas back in the day when we were still at Robert Morris. We started on this I started in this plastics, turning water bottles into 3D filament for 3D printers.
Okay.
We tried to anyway. It was my buddy Chip's idea, and he didn't really know what to do with it. So we started screwing around, learning about recycling and learning about business stuff and how to organize and structure a startup, basically. Got in a little bit too far over my head because I was trying to figure out recycling and how to turn plastic into something usable through manufacturing and machinery and factory space and yada yada yada. So it was a little bit much, but I learned a lot. So that was the benefit of that. And then I started working with Jem. We would just meet and kind of run through different ideas of what we could do. We started this clothing company called Pasage. It's actually a clothing company in Turkey that we franchised. So we kind of set up this little distribution/franchise agreement with them with creative control, so we could turn their current set of merch and their designs into kind of whatever we wanted. And then had this idea because my brother Ethan with Pasage Studios, he's been doing audio production and engineering and all that fun stuff for four years, I guess, at this point, 4 or 5 years. So he has a big clientele of artists that he works with already. That with the construction company, figured getting content for that would make it a little bit easier. If we had a studio, same with the clothing company, it was expensive to hire out studios and figure out photographers and yada 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 to create the content for that. So we kind of had the idea that it would be smart to open up the studio and kind of heavy focus on the creative aspect of things going into it. I knew Pittsburgh wasn't the greatest hub for entertainment-y kind of a thing, but I've been pleasantly surprised, and I kind of have been proven right in my summation that Pittsburgh very, very well could be a hub for entertainment stuff. So that's kind of where, after launching Pasage Studios, we kind of identified that there is that ability to bring more resources here and make this a place where people can come and create rather than have to leave and go to LA or New York or Atlanta or whatever. So the mission, I guess, is basically to bring an entertainment hub, or at least assist in bringing resources here and create some kind of a hub for artists to actually get paid for their work and spread that around wherever. So that's kind of where it started. That's where we're going. Yeah, I guess that's a decent start.
Yeah. So what did you go to school for?
I did a dual major in accounting and finance and a minor in data analytics and dropped out after 3.5 years.
Oh, no. Well, it's fine. You're not using it anyways. So.
Well, I am part of it.
Right.
I've definitely learned some stuff. It'll come in more in handy with the finance side of things after we get a little bit up to of a larger scale. But right now, business math is addition and subtraction and division. So high school shit.
It'll serve a purpose.
It will. I know it will for sure. I took international finance, and that did actually help with what we were doing with the Turkish side of things. But also, it would have been able to figure it out probably without it. So not trash in school, not at all. Just kind of the current setup of school, I guess, if that makes sense. Unless you're going to be a doctor or a nurse or whatever, you need this training. You know what I mean? But aside from those kind of things, I don't think it's the end all be all of becoming successful.
I agree with that.
Hot take or not, I don't know.
So you do a little bit of videography now.
Yeah.
How did you get into that?
We needed to make more rent money. So that, and I've always liked film. Ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to, some part of me always wanted to be a film producer. I want to produce a Star Wars film. I think that'd be sick. So naturally I figured I would end up picking up a camera at some point anyway, but the original model of Pasage was to collaborate and work with other camera people that have done this before and know what they're doing, rather than me showing up and be hey man, can I take your picture? That didn't really seem smart, but saved up a little bit of money, got a camera, and it does make sense at this point to be able to make our own behind the scenes content at the studio, or just do stuff that we wouldn't be able to do without having to hire a camera guy, whether it be make our own in-house films or make our own commercials or content or whatever. So I'm basically just in practice mode. I've done a wedding at this point, a baby shower, the Juneteenth festival, the Cultural Trust New Year's party with Frizzy. Shout out Frizzy. Like a bunch of like on and off things here and there, like a lot of behind the scenes content at the studio. Some pictures. I'm not so good at pictures comparatively, but screwing around, learning.
Yeah. So, what is your goal with Pasage?
So the goal, first and foremost, is to do cool shit. Excuse my French, but like realistically, what that looks like is setting up projects and resources. Like a friend of mine, Michael Carroll, kind of redefined what I'm trying to do for me in a way that like made it a little bit more concise. And I guess it's workforce development, which is kind of weird when you're thinking about like a creative studio approach. But we're doing some work with like students and stuff, trying to create jobs and different projects that ideally are paying to kind of go towards that idea of making Pittsburgh a sustainable entertainment hub. That is like the end all be all goal of at least this iteration of Pasage. The goal is to also have locations in other areas and then be able to do tours set up with like our network of resources and do movie festivals between different groups of colleges and professionals. And over in Turkey, where we got a little bit of this idea for the student club that we're doing with Carnegie Mellon, called Bill Kent University. It's called the club was called Bill Kent Radio Bill Kent. Jem, my partner, was in it. He was the head of sales, and their whole thing was basically student-led, university-supported, throwing bigger shows than you would typically be able to throw without a team full of people and some money. But like they were doing like 1,500 person shows over there, and like the school would fund it. They would set it up, advertise, pull in sponsors, yada yada yada. And the club ended up I think at this point has like 100 students in it. So like it's kind of a standalone entity that the school has and makes money off of. So good for the school, but then pushes that back down to the students. So like the goal is to set up a connection with them over there. We're working with this other group called the ACT Rooms, and that seems to nothing's cemented yet. I don't really want to talk too much about it, but they have a couple of international locations too. So the goal would be able to tie in our local scene and with all of the other major hubs, or at least set up hubs that are close to them that can quickly access those resources. Plus, like there's the internet now, so like realistically, I could just pick up the phone and call somebody that's a movie producer in LA if I had the phone number to like set up a bigger style thing. But yeah, like I'm getting a little off track. The goal is to set up a web of resources and push them towards Pittsburgh, because it's in my head it's like getting in on Amazon before Amazon's Amazon.
Yeah.
You know.
It seems like you're really empowering artists through Pasage.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Well, I can really feel that when I come to like Media
Yeah.
Day, and I think that's really something beautiful that Pittsburgh needs. And I'm curious if you're learning anything about yourself through that process.
Yeah, tons. It's hard to put a specific thing. I've changed so much in the last, just like we opened May 18th last year, so like a year and a month and a half or something, or 2 months. I'm a completely different person. Some good, some bad, probably. You know, I mean, that's life. But definitely learned that like my ability to handle a large amount of bullshit, we'll call it, is pretty good. But I still get affected by it, of course, like a normal human. But like sometimes a little more than your maybe average human. I'm a little angry sometimes, you know. So like I've definitely highlighted that as something that like I would like to continue to check and like work towards. But I've also like learned that I'm really pretty good with people and decent at getting my ideas across in a way that like, from what people tell me, I don't like to like talk highly about myself, to be quite frank. But like, I think that I'm pretty good at getting my ideas across in a way that like is somewhat inspiring to get people up and like moving and doing stuff and get more organized and more structured behind, especially with like the creative thing, because your stereotypical artist does not always have like a schedule of XYZ. This thing needs to get done by here, form my LLC to protect myself against the music industry and act as like a barrier and a place to house finances and yada yada yada. So like I've learned that that's like where a lot of my like strong suits are, I guess, is that like middle ground between art and business, I guess, because like art's important, but also business is too, and like marketing and all that stuff, because you could have the best painting in the entire world, and if nobody knows that it's even a thing, like, is it the best painting in the entire world? So like I've learned that that's kind of like where my strong suit is. I've learned that I need to control my anger. I've learned that patience is important. I've learned that people are the most important. I guess that's not really about myself, but that's probably
It says a lot
yeah,
about you, though.
yeah.
It seems like you really value connection.
Mm-hmm. My dad always told me it's who you know, not what you know, but like that seems almost transactional, but like it doesn't have to be. It can be transformational. I stole that from Leon Ford. Thanks, dude. Transformational over transactional. It still requires connection and knowing people, and so you can't, like, me by myself can't do what we're doing, and me with a group of people potentially can. We like the amount that you can do with other people is just exponentially larger than what you can do by yourself. So why even, like, you have to get yourself solid so that you can even work with other people at a high level. But like, if to get there is the goal, not to just be like an alpha dog. Like, I'm hard, I can do everything by myself. That's stupid.
Exactly. Yeah. So you brought up your dad. You lost him. Can you talk to me a little bit about
2
that?
years ago, April 4th, 4/4. He, like, hell of a dude, straight up. I guess that's the easiest way to put it. He started this construction company that's funded most of our lives, obviously, since we were little. Big breadwinner dude. It's stereotypical, like, no, there's nothing stereotypical about him. I'm going to change that. That's not true. Took care of us, took care of my mom, and kind of led the groundwork of us, like, trying, myself and my brother, trying to not, like, to be entrepreneurs, I guess. It was very entrepreneurialistic. Is that a word? Entrepreneurial household, I guess, is the best way to put it. Thanks to him, like, it gave me a sense of, like, I am capable of doing something other than, like, and there's no shade at it, but, like, I don't want to sit behind a desk and be an accountant my whole life. I think that's not where anybody's supposed to be quite frank. Not in, like, again, a degrading way to anybody that does that. Like, there's plenty of people that like that. I just don't necessarily believe you if you do. Like, I don't think you fully like it. I think if you, like, put yourself out there a little bit more, and that's hard to do, and, like, hot take or not, I don't really care. Like, everybody's capable of a little bit more than what they think they are. Myself included, yourself included, everybody included. But yeah, like, he kind of instilled that sense of, like, individualism, I guess, that I'm glad that I have. But specifically, and, like, it relates to Pasage in every way. Like, he was in entertainment, he was in bands till he died. We'd fucking take oxygen tanks to his shows and hook him up and let him go.
Aww.
Stupid. It was really funny, but at the time it wasn't so fun. But yeah, like, he would be playing shows, and he was working on, like, with people who wrote the entire, like, music for, like, Victorious and iCarly and stuff like that. Drake Bell, he stayed at our house a couple times. Like, pretty heavy, not heavy in the entertainment industry, but, like, heavy into breaking into it. And he was setting up with a couple of his partners this, like, big studio house, production house, out in Churchill. There's, like, a Westinghouse facility that is no longer a Westinghouse facility, and they were trying to purchase some of that property and turn that into a production house with a couple, like, sound stages and a wood shop and a workshop, or a metal shop, and a offices in between, and a kitchen for catering and whatever, like a one-stop shop for films, for movies, for movie production, all the way down to, like, housing for crews and actors and whatever to come through and stay there for months at a clip without having to, like, go and piece all of those individual things together. He was working with this guy named Joe Nacito on funding this thing, and it was going pretty well. COVID hit. The Pittsburgh film office shut down. They had a problem with subdividing the property because it used to be like a nuclear power plant, and you can't buy part of a nuclear power plant and fix the soil problems in 1/3 of it and not fix the 2/3 of it because, like, it'll just recontaminate it or whatever. So that, like, held it up. COVID, yada, yada, yada. And then my dad got really sick, like, a year roughly after COVID, I think is when it started. It's kind of hard for me to remember, but, yeah, and then it just kind of went downhill from there with his health. I was in school acting like an asshole, getting into trouble. And then I dropped out, like, shortly after it was, like, we knew what was going on pretty much, and I think around that time we were still, like, working on the clothing company and trying to figure some stuff out with, like, a direction that we wanted to go, because we were spending a lot of money, making a decent bit, but, like, spending a lot of money learned a lot again, not upset about it, but fucking spent a lot of money working on this clothing company. And then just kind of, like, that happened, all hell broke loose. But I kind of, this is not like a pat me on the back thing. I just didn't know. I don't think I knew what else to do with my time other than, like, dive into something like a massive project that, like, we could work on and distract myself from, I guess, a little bit. But yeah, we opened up the studio, like, that would have been April of 2022. And then like roughly like 8 months to a year later, we had the studio open basically. So like we like between the clothing company and then we planned this whole thing out, built the thing out, got all the equipment, whatever, put it in there and just kind of started. I think it was like a year or so later, maybe a little bit under. But yeah, like he's in all of it. You know what I mean? Like I play guitar too. So like the music came from him, the business came from him, the film came from him. Yeah, all of it.
So, what was the timeline like? Did you start the clothing line after he passed away?
No, it was before. If I'm remembering correctly, like that, it's kind of weird, and I don't mean to like deflect, but I simply like the order of those individual things does not like
register.
It doesn't really. It's really hard. Plus, I was getting fucked up in college, so like that didn't help with my memory either.
Yeah.
Because so it would have been. I was supposed to graduate 2023. I dropped out a semester early, basically, like a little bit more than that. So that would have been like, what, May, so the spring semester or the fall semester, September in there, 2023, backwards into 2022. The clothing company and the plastics thing, I think we're like, no, the plastics, clothing, death, studio is I think the timeline basically.
Yeah. Death.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, whatever. We'll call it that. That's the rough timeline. I'm pretty sure there was some other like larger problems in between there, like with my own stupidity, but
That's okay. We learned.
Duh.
You were going through a lot, right?
Yeah, good excuse.
So, not to be insensitive, but like what have you learned about yourself since the passing of your father? Like, have you been living differently since that?
Yeah, like I've been like a shell for a little bit, not in like a super dark, depressing way, but like also kind of like just less healthy with like myself and my surroundings and my time for a while. Getting myself much better now, like able to like keep a schedule and hold a schedule and do it right, you know. But like I wasn't taking very good care of myself, so and I wasn't before then anyway. I'm like an adult baby kind of, but that just like made it worse, you know, because he wasn't there to yell at me and be like, "Get the fuck up, you goofball." So like I had to grow up a little bit, you know. But that's like fine, you know. You got to do it at some point anyway. Earlier, sometimes better. When I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do, it's not necessarily the bad thing. So I try to take the good with the bad in that situation. Yeah, it's changed in a weird way. Like it's placed me at the forefront of the things that I'm trying to do rather than like behind. Because if we would have been doing this together, like if he was still around, this would have been like Pasage would already be probably close to that like film production house rather than just like a content creation hub as of right now, branching into film. So like it would have expedited it, but it probably wouldn't have done me any favors. Like I've already been the boss's kid for most of my life with the construction company, and like not that it's like I'm not like oh it's the worst thing ever. Like I'm lucky as hell, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it definitely like I guess pulled me out of my. I was a shell, but then it like pulled me out of it, if that makes sense. Like it kind of forced me to get my shit together a little bit quicker, and still working on it. Of course, my shit's not together, but it's more than it was. You know? I learned that I am good at like picking up something quick and like doing a lot of research really quick and getting okay at it enough to like have a conversation and maybe fool you that I'm better than I am at it than I actually am, which has helped with this like little smoke and mirrors approach that I've kind of taken with the studio as far as like the value that we provide. It's the value that we provide is the group of people that is in the building. You know what I mean? And that like Pasage is just I guess like a name that you correlate with all of these people as of right now. The goal is to be able to like make a legitimate enterprise out of the thing and pay everybody, and like I go back to the job creations and stuff like that. I've learned that like I found out that my intentions are good simply by the fact that like I'm trying to do all of these things and I don't quite know what it looks like or how it happens, but like by sheer faith and goodwill creates good business. That's what my dad taught me too. That was like one of the earliest things I remember him saying. Goodwill creates good business. Like it ends up, even if you don't really know where you're going, you're going to end up somewhere at least close to where you wanted to be, or maybe even somewhere bigger than you ever could have hoped for, I guess is the best way to put it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I don't know. Something like that.
Thank you for sharing that. It seems like you're stepping like more into this independence because of everything.
I'd say so. Still trying to get to that fully, but aren't we all, I suppose?
It's a work in progress, yeah. We all
You
are. Life's a journey.
It's an interesting one.
Yes. So I'm going to ask the final 2 questions.
Okay.
What would you title this chapter of your life?
Fuck. Not fuck. But maybe. But like in a good way. You know what I mean? Like, fuck. Yeah. I think I like that actually. Fuck. Like, damn, this shit is rough, but like it's also more like amazing than you could ever possibly put words to. Both good and bad at different times and at the same time. Fuck.
I like that answer.
I don't know. I think that's probably the best way. That's the first thing I said. So my buddy Drew taught me that's usually the right answer. So yeah.
Trust the gut.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for the young viewers out there.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And then the final question is, what are you learning to love about yourself?
That even I'm learning to love the things that I don't necessarily like, because like they are part of me and like the things that I am good at. So like the one thing I hate is that I don't manage my time properly all the time, but it means that I'm like pretty decent under pressure and I can come up with some good shit in a short amount of time, which means if I just allot myself the proper amount of time, the work is going to be good and it's going to be done really good. You know, like I guess I love the fact that I love that I do my best to take care of other people as well, but like I am a firm believer that you have to put your own oxygen mask on first. So like I love that I even like think in that order, I guess. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to like spout some bullshit onto anybody that I don't know anything about. Even if like I do know a little bit about it, I probably won't tell you unless you like ask. So like I don't even know what that answer brings me to, but I love my brain in a way that like it's a goofy place to be sometimes, but like it ends up producing cool things for the most part, and like allows me to connect with people in different ways than like I guess somebody else would, but that's the same way your brain is too. So I don't know. Yeah, my brain. I would say my work ethic when I'm actually working. And see, I'm gonna maybe stretch this a little bit. I love the people around me, because like they wouldn't be around me if I wasn't me. So like by extension, does that make any sense?
It does.
You
Yeah.
know, like I love me for being able to be surrounded by cool people, because if I wasn't like at least a little bit cool, then everybody would be like, fuck you, dude. You know, like get away from me, you're a weirdo, whatever. Yeah, I guess that's a couple answers. I'm working on that too, I'd say. Not that I hate myself by any means, I really don't, but sometimes it's hard to like pinpoint a specific thing. I haven't thought about it. So maybe I should.
You should, yeah. That's why I like to ask that question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
And then I like to leave room at the end for you to say anything you'd like directly to the camera or anyone watching this.
If you have a grandiose idea that you don't think is possible and you haven't tried, fucking try. Number one. Don't be afraid of failure, which is like super hard and kind of like probably advice that everybody gets all the time, but like there's something important there. I think that in my opinion, there's no such thing as a real failure. Like if you do something and you learn from something, that's not a failure. If you do something and do it again and do it again and do it again and then you learn something, none of them were failures. That's just kind of like the way that I at least try to look at shit. It doesn't always work that way, of course. But yeah, I would say that you're more capable than you think. I think I'll leave it like that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a wrap.